Welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right into a really profound question today. Think about all the amazing discoveries and inventions throughout human history, whether we're talking about complex math, groundbreaking science, or even beautiful works of art. Were all of those things already out there, just floating around somewhere in the universe? Like, did we not actually create them from scratch, but just stumble upon them waiting for us?
To get a grip on this, let's look at a wild piece of history. Right around the year 1670, you had two genius minds, Isaac Newton over in England and Gottfried Leibniz in Germany. They were thousands of miles apart. They had absolutely zero clue what the other was doing. Yet almost at the exact same time, they'd both independently discovered calculus. I mean, think about it. Two totally different people in two totally different worlds, way before the internet or smartphones, and they hit upon the exact same mathematical truth. So how on earth does that happen? Was it just some astronomical coincidence, or does it actually prove something much deeper? Like, maybe the fundamental rules of calculus were already woven right into the fabric of the universe, just sitting there, waiting for a human mind to finally reach out and grab them.
Let's look at a metaphor here to make this concrete. Imagine a potter spinning a really beautiful clay pot. Now, our first instinct is to say, hey, he made that. But if you think a little deeper on it, the clay itself was already in the ground, right? The water he used was already flowing in a river somewhere. And the fire used to bake that pot and make it durable, well, that's just a pre-existing force of nature. And it actually goes even further than that. Think about the potter's own hands, his skills, his years of practice, that deep muscle memory. All of that came from nature too, passed down through human genetics and generations of teachers. So what did the potter actually do? He didn't literally create something out of thin air. He just took what was already there, the clay, the water, the fire, his own inherited knowledge, and combined it all into a brand new shape. We actually see this exact same pattern in a tiny, simple seed. If you look inside a seed, you're not going to find some written recipe for how to grow a piece of fruit. Yet, when you add soil, water, a little sunlight, and air, they all work together to do exactly what the laws of nature already dictated. The tree isn't really inventing anything new. It's literally just manifesting a possibility that was already baked into the universe. Which brings us to a super fascinating question. Is the human mind just like that potter? Are we just taking the universe's pre-existing stuff, matter, energy, the laws of physics, and simply molding it all into new shapes?
Well, as you can probably guess, philosophers have been wrestling with this exact mystery for centuries. And over time, they've basically split into two main schools of thought.
The first camp is called Platonism, and Platonism argues that all mathematical rules, all physics principles, all these grand scientific truths, they already exist in this eternal, invisible realm. We don't make them up, we just kind of lift the veil and uncover them. It's exactly like finding a buried treasure. You dig up a chest of gold, sure, but you didn't create the gold by digging it up. It was always there. And honestly, this perfectly explains how Newton and Leibniz could reach the exact same mathematical conclusion at the same time, because that truth already existed for both of them to find.
But then you have the second camp, constructivism. And the constructivists push back hard. They say, hold on a minute, it doesn't work like that. They argue that mathematical truths, scientific laws, human language, even the melodies in music, none of these were just sitting around ready-made in some invisible cosmic vault. Instead, they are pure creations of the human mind, forged from scratch through our own experiences and logic. I mean, think about the wheel, or spoken language, or the internet. There was absolutely no pre-existing blueprint for those things floating around in space until a human brain actually created them. So, when we put these two ideas head to head, Platonism, uncovering hidden truths, versus constructivism, building them from scratch, we have to ask ourselves, where does the real truth actually lie? Is human progress rooted in discovery, or is it fundamentally about creation? Actually, the answer might just sit right in the middle of the two. Think back to our potter. The raw materials, the matter, the energy, the fundamental laws of nature. Yes, those were all already there, just like the potter's clay. But exactly which pot gets made from that clay and the specific, unique shape it ultimately takes? Well, that choice, that specific assembly, maybe that's where true creation actually begins. There's a pretty deep, almost mind-bending realization hidden in all this. We humans are, after all, a part of the universe. We aren't just external observers standing outside looking in through a window. Our brains, our thoughts, our ideas, they're deeply connected to the very fabric of the reality we're trying to figure out. Just like a clay pot isn't separate from clay, it's just clay in a new form. The human mind is literally the universe trying to understand itself. And maybe that's exactly why the line between discovery and creation is so blurry. The creator is just a product of the very system they're trying to create within. Okay, so if we're entirely a part of the universe, let's push this one step further. Think about every single thought that pops into your head. Where do those thoughts actually come from? Well, they come from your circumstances, your upbringing, the childhood environment you never explicitly chose. They come from the family you were born into, the native language you originally learned to think in, the culture you grew up around. Literally, all of these factors fundamentally wire your brain long before you're ever in a position to actually choose anything at all for yourself. And that brings us to a massive, slightly terrifying question. If your brain operates strictly on the laws of physics, neurons firing, chemicals mixing, electrical signals jumping, and physics is just this unbroken, inescapable chain of cause and effect, then wasn't every single decision you've ever made predetermined? Right from the exact millisecond the very first particle moved in the Big Bang?
It's exactly like a giant chain of falling dominoes. One falls, it knocks over the next, which knocks over the third, and on and on. Is the entire universe and literally every single thought inside your head just one long, totally inevitable consequence of that very first domino falling? If that's true, then what feels like a conscious choice is really just the next mandatory step in physics. We just can't see the complex math happening behind the scenes in our brains, so it feels to us like we freely chose it.
In the world of philosophy, this heavy concept is called determinism. And if determinism is the real deal, it means that our sense of free will might just be a really, really convincing illusion. It's an illusion that feels incredibly natural and, let's face it, absolutely necessary for us to function in daily life, even if, behind the curtain, we don't have nearly as much control as we like to think we do. But we have to be careful because there's a serious hidden danger here. If we go all in and accept that absolutely everything is predetermined, it opens up a really convenient trapdoor to just escape responsibility for our own bad choices. I mean, it's pretty easy to just shrug and say, hey, I didn't eat that entire pizza by myself. Physics made me do it. But in the real world, surrendering all your personal responsibility is a dangerous game. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Are you truly the potter of your own destiny, or are you just the clay blindly following the laws of physics? Let that one sink in for a bit, and I'll see you in the next explainer. Take any major breakthrough in science, math, or art. Did we actually build those ideas from nothing, or were they already sitting there, hidden in the background of the universe? Around 1670, Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz developed calculus at nearly the same time. They were separated by thousands of miles, had never met, and used different notation, yet they arrived at the same mathematical truth. It's a historical anomaly that suggests they weren't just guessing, they were both converging on the same point. Look at the geometry in this text. These arcs and proofs aren't just ink on a page, they describe relationships between space and logic that exist regardless of who observes them. It suggests that calculus wasn't an invention of the 17th century, but a property of the universe that had been waiting for a mind capable of translating it. If our greatest ideas predate our discovery of them, then the very concept of human invention starts to look like something else entirely. Consider a potter shaping a vessel. We naturally say he created the pot, but the raw reality is more complex. The clay was in the earth, the water was in the river. The fire that bakes it is a chemical reaction he didn't invent. Even the skill in his hands is the result of biology and physics, muscle memory and neurological pathways refined by gravity and friction. The potter doesn't create new matter or new laws. He takes what is already available and rearranges it into a specific configuration. Nature does this constantly, without a conscious designer. A seed doesn't read a manual to become a tree. It simply reacts to soil, water, and light according to biological rules that were already set. The tree is the expression of possibilities that were inherent in the environment from the start. If the potter and the seed are just conduits for existing materials and rules, we have to ask if the human brain operates on that same principle, molding cosmic ingredients into new shapes. This tension has led to two distinct ways of looking at reality. First, there's Platonism. This view holds that mathematical and scientific truths exist in a permanent, objective realm. To a Platonist, Newton and Leibniz didn't create calculus any more than an explorer creates buried treasure by digging it up. They simply unearthed a truth that was already there. Then there's constructivism. This school argues that these truths don't exist until we build them using our own logic and experience. They aren't pre-existing maps, they're tools we manufacture to make sense of the world. Take the wheel. You won't find this specific geometric engineering in the natural world. It's a human solution to a physical problem, built from our observation and intent. This argument extends to our modern digital landscape. The internet and its code aren't natural phenomena we discovered in the wild. We constructed these networks from the ground up, using our own symbolic languages. The conflict remains. Are we the architects of reality, or just its most observant residents? The answer might be found in a synthesis. While the raw materials and universal rules are fixed, the creator chooses the specific form they take. But this leads to a contradiction we can't easily resolve. The person doing the creating is a physical part of the very universe they are trying to manipulate. We think of ourselves as separate observers, but our brains are made of the same stardust and governed by the same gravity as everything else. We are the universe observing itself. When we can't separate the artist from the canvas, the line between discovering a rule and inventing a use for it starts to disappear. If we are entirely part of this physical system, we have to look at the origin of a single thought. You didn't choose the language you think in, the era you were born into, or the environment that shaped your early reflexes. Every thought you have is a series of biochemical reactions. A neuron doesn't choose to fire. It fires because it was triggered by a specific chemical or electrical stimulus from another neuron. This is the basic law of cause and effect. If the chemical state of your brain at this exact second is the direct result of how it was a millisecond ago, then every thought is just the next link in an unbroken chain. If you follow that chain of reactions all the way back, through your life, your ancestors, and the formation of the stars, you eventually reach the very beginning of time. It raises the possibility that your current decision was technically inevitable from the moment the first particle moved in the Big Bang. We feel like we are making independent choices, but we may just be watching a cosmic equation play out, unable to see the variables that make the outcome certain. This concept, that every event is the necessary result of what came before, is called determinism. In a purely deterministic world, free will is a functional illusion. It's a perspective we need to maintain in order to organize our lives and our societies. However, there is a trap here. If we decide we have no agency, we also lose the concept of personal responsibility. It becomes easy to claim that the laws of physics made us take a specific action. That logic might be consistent with a certain view of the universe, but it makes for a reality that is nearly impossible to live in. We are caught between the cold math of the cosmos and the necessary belief that our choices actually matter.